And he started attacking me for my, for being with a Thai girl and for just selling out the white race because I'm going to have children with them. I said, I'm going to have as many children, as many mixed race children as I possibly can, just to piss you off. The main point of this exercise is just to show you that this identity politics thing is right across the board, because their ideology says it's perfectly fine for them to behave this way. But if you can hold up a mirror that reflects them back as the thing that they despise, maybe that'll work a bit more. So with these far left lunatics who are teaching our children lunacy, if you can hold up this mirror to them and say, look at what identity politics and authoritarian beliefs does, because how familiar is that? As soon as I questioned this guy, as soon as I said, I got nothing to say, then you're a coward. It's very similar to the, if you say nothing, you are complicit in racism. Because I was looking at, and the way he got triggered as soon as I disagreed with anything that he had to say, he went off on one. I was a heretic. This is a hardline Christian. They go off on one. All these people share the same thing. They go off on one because they consider you to be a heretic. This is cult behavior. These are brainwashed cultists. All of them. Knowledge and ignorance. Welcome. Knowledge and Ignorance. Episode, whatever it says on the thing you clicked on. I hope you're having a great time out there in the land of who knows what. Freedom, no freedom, some freedom. Masks, no masks, maskless. Who knows what's going on? I don't care no more. Anyway, I'm your host, Sexy Face Chiseled Jaw, aka Rebus, aka none of your business. Today we're going to delve into a subject that is very spicy. It combines two subjects, in fact, that are incredibly spicy. So much spice that it could blow the top of your head off. This is the kind of spice that gets people arrested. That kind of spice. Hopes you're into spice. Okay, so what is this spice? Well, it all coincides with recent news events. I don't know if you noticed that. There might be people running through your town centres and city streets screaming obscenities about certain kinds of people that, take Fridays off. The descendants of Abraham, King David's people. They got the hats and the hair. Some of them, the Jews. The Jews. You may have noticed them saying some pretty spicy things about them. This made me think back to just my general experience with the whole concept of anti-Semitism and the whole concept of the other spicy subject, which is obviously the one of the buzz topics of our age right now, identity politics. What I'm about to go through is I'm going to tell a story. Okay, I'm going to tell you a little story, and it will be a clear confirmation of how the hard left or the far left or the loony left or whatever you like to call it, and the far right, the hard right, the alt right, Nick Griffin posse, whatever you want to call them, how they are in fact the very same people with the very same beliefs, who exhibit exactly the same types of behavior. We're talking about being easily triggered, cult-like, how they just stick to doctrine and cannot be deprogrammed from the brainwashing that has been inflicted upon them. How basically it's either you agree with everything or you're out the club. It's the same thing. Oh, and how they're a bunch of anti-Semite racists too. They're all these things, these people. Okay, and I'll make this abundantly clear as I go through a funky little story, just between you and me and whoever else is bothering to watch. Now, before I do that, make sure, if you're already on the website, hi. But if you're not, click the link, go to the website, and become a subscriber there. There's way more content over there than there is on any of the other platforms you're watching on right now, or listening on, for that matter. Especially if you're listening to this, there's way more stuff for you to be consuming of mine, so you might as well go consume it. But this is mainly going out to YouTube people, The other platforms too, from your Odysseys to your BitChutes to your blah 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 blah, but mainly it's the YouTube lot. I'm just here to like recruit you and bring you over to the good side, because YouTube's like, it's gone, man. It's got to do one. So, thank you for that. Now, this chair is a little bit squeaky, so I'll try not to be too animated. But this is a story that requires animation, so I apologise in advance. I also apologise for the rumblings and the squealing from the aircon, but it's so damn hot in here, I had to put it on the lowest setting, and that's as quiet as it gets. Don't know why I'm apologising. You should be apologising for having a problem with it. So let us begin with awkward stories about, well, hang on. The title, what's the title I was saying? My experience, or I wouldn't call it relationship, I guess. My time knowing what I could best describe as a white nationalist. I'd never met one before. Well, I've met former ones before. Actually, I've met two, for definite. One reform one, and one there was a guy that did security for me. They both had swastika tattoos. So let's say this is my third time, but this guy didn't have any clear indicators. And I'll detail like this short-lived set of exchanges and interactions that we had. I'll give like certain films and stories where they tell you the ending first, or give you a bit of the ending. Just the bit before the ending. The bit before the climax of the ending. Eventually, I told him to go fuck himself. He was a weirdo and he stinks. And I said that I'm going to have children with every different race on planet Earth just to piss him off. That's what I pretty much said to him before blocking him. Although he might have blocked me first. Can't quite figure it out. Now, it's not like one of my plans to have children with every race on planet Earth. I would just do it out of spite, because let's face facts, if you're going to have kids with people in different countries all over the world, have some sort of litter of children spread out thousands of miles apart, that's not very good. It's not an intelligent way to go about fatherhood. It's financially ruinous. It's just not a clever thing to do. You could only do that kind of thing out of spite, or if you're screaming Jay Hawkins or Bin Laden, I suppose. Now let's make something abundantly clear first as well, before I go into the story. And that is my experience with conspiracy and my knowledge of how a lot of conspiracy theories are deep-rooted in anti-Semitism. This is something I'm very well versed on. Something I first sort of discovered this almost 20 years ago now. And it's something I've delved deep into. There's a lot of roads that lead to Rome when it comes to conspiracy theories. This is my problem with conspiracy theories and actual conspiracy. You see, conspiracy theories is fantasy land. Conspiracy is the shit that's actually going on. And there's people out there who've got even more knowledge and even more experience and even more well-read than me. Okay, so it's very difficult for me to be able to tell people you need to stop talking because you believe the same shit Hitler does. Because it can be very small, but there's elements of DNA. I guess the DNA of a lot of conspiracy theories is deep-rooted into anti-Semitism, mainly when it comes to stuff and the Rothschilds. That's like one of your big flags there, is Rothschild conspiracies, for sure. Because there's something called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. If you don't know about it, go look into it. Basically, this is a piece of propaganda created by the Russian secret police back in the 19th century. Basically, it's like a manifesto supposedly created by the Jews on how they're going to dominate the world and basically become the Illuminati. You see, everyone confuses the Illuminati and the Protocols of Zion and mix these two things together, whereas the Illuminati was a thing that existed, but then the Illuminati actually was kind of a hoax in the 60s. And the Rothschilds, when it comes from the the application of what's in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion to the Rothschilds, that's something that is pretty much down to a man you'll know as Adolf Hitler and his wonderful movie, Die Rothschild, which you can watch on YouTube. And as YouTube's new policies have come out, they'll be running ads on it. And Hitler won't get a penny. Well, what a disgrace that is. Now, so because I understand this, I mean, even 9/11 conspiracies are based on the same anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that they were using during World War II, which was used as a way to stop America from getting into the war, basically. If you look at those two conspiracies, they're very similar. They say, oh, it's Jewish bankers want us to go to war with Germany so they can make all this money and blah, 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 blah. It's the same business. Now, with that said, that look, this is something, this, like the conflict in Israel and the Jewish people themselves and the Islamic people, this is something that cannot be explained. This is something that can be explained quickly. Okay. You're just going to have to take my word for it, man. And I'm very consistent on this shit. This is why I don't really get into debates about conspiracy with a lot of people, because, like, I know more. That's it. That's all you need to know about this. So I just needed to get that out of the way, because as we go into this, you're going to be wondering what the hell's going on. Why am I entertaining speaking with a person like this? But I speak to everybody, is something I'll say. And let it be known that I know when people start talking conspiracy talk and start talking about the Jews, or even the Rothschilds, or 9/11, I know where it all comes from, and therefore I do not instantly think that someone is some raging anti-Semite, or, David Duke's best friend, or like it's going around high-fiving black Israelites, or, Klan members. Often you'll meet people who will say stuff about the Jews who won't even realize what they're doing, because conspiracy theories like this are widespread and are very much part of mainstream now. Like, your nan will believe, your nan can be a 9/11 truther. That's where we're at, man. Come on, we got QAnon now, baby. Like, it's open season. So let's begin the story. Now, through a mutual friend, I met this guy. I don't even really know his real name anyway, because apparently it might not be his real name. So, and we'll just call him Geezer. So I meet Geezer. He's not a geezer, right? He's not like a geezer. He's not someone who drinks pints of ale and smashes birds like a champion. Anyway, we meet Geezer. He's not Dapper Laughs. He's not that kind of geezer. Alright, and he's not Freddie Foreman, not that kind of geezer. We're just going to call him Geezer. So I met Geezer through a mutual acquaintance, and we went on a little day trip to a city not too far away from here. And I'd never met this man before, but I've been told that, like, he's a guy that's got some pretty out there views when it comes to the conspiracies of the world. And the mutual friend I have, who I would say was just, as he later learned himself, because he got defriended by this motherfucker, which is a blessing. He was just a bit naive to this kind of thing, because he's a lot older, and he's kind of new to conspiracy. Older people, when they get new to conspiracy, have a lot to learn, and less cognition to be learning it, if you know what I'm saying. So I meet this guy, and the first thing that struck me about him was he was just so forward, because I guess he must have thought that I was okay. Do you know, like, he'd been pre-told that this guy's okay to just say what you like, because he did. Because he asked me where I was from, and I told him, story. I grew up in London, and then I also grew up in the West Country, and he was like, oh yeah, and instantly he was like, oh yeah, part of the white flight, yeah. A lot of white people have moved out from the city areas because it's been taken over by foreigners. Just instantly, and I was like, oh. I was like, I mean, that's nowhere near the reason why my parents moved away from London when I was a kid. It's got absolutely nothing to do with it. It does have a lot to do with a coup in Nigeria. it does help me, but that's a story for another time. And you'll want to hear that one, so click subscribe and all that. And I thought it was a bit forward, but it isn't something I haven't heard before from some regular people. You know, last time I heard that was when I was in Bangkok speaking to some banker, a banker in Bangkok, and he said, yeah, a lot of white boys are leaving the UK, but he was like, because, you know, it's you're going to earn more money being abroad. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm a white boy and I left the UK. I mean, that's pretty much why I did it, because, you know, when you're grinding towards a goal, it takes a long time to achieve what you want to achieve, especially when you're doing the kind of things I'm doing. But why live like a pauper when you have an opportunity to be earning the same money, but you can work remotely, but that money quadruples in a foreign land? Now I don't live like a pauper, and I'm earning less money than I was when I was working in London. Like, only because I work like a quarter of the hours, because I can afford to. So hell yeah, there's a reason for some white flight, if you like. Also, white flight likes dark pussy. But that's another story altogether as well. There's many stories. Click subscribe, what are you doing? There's all these stories. So, you know, this is a bit forward. And then we went on to the city that we were going to, and we stopped off at a bar on the way. And that's when it all just came out. Jew talk, and it was instant, because he started saying, you know, well, I hate to say it, and you know when someone starts a conversation going, I am not a racist, I am not an anti-Semite, I am not a homophobe, but, you see, I never say anything like, I am not a homophobe. I'll say, do you know, there's stuff I don't like about gay people, you know, Barbra Streisand, and you know, I'll just be straight out with it, like going, I am not, because it's like, you know, like everyone's got something that they don't like about people, so who gives a fuck? But he's like, I am not an anti-Semite, right? And then he gets quiet, but like, it is the Jews, but he wasn't quiet enough for me. He wasn't quiet enough. I was like, you're not being quiet enough, because at least one person's going to hear you going into Jew talk. And instantly, you know, my conspiracy radar was going ding, 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 ding. But then again, but the anti-Semitism radar should have been going ding, 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 but it didn't. Because like I said, I'm too used to hearing this kind of thing of so many regular people. And it's like, and it's not my job to go around deprogramming people. I'm not like, you know, that guy, who's that black musician who managed to get like shitloads of people to leave the KKK. What's his name? Is Daryl something? He's a very big fella. That guy, some musician. I'm not him, and I'm not, you know, whoever else has managed to deprogram people and, you know, de-radicalize. Majid Nawaz, you know, that's kind of one of his things, isn't it? It's de-radicalizing Islamists. This isn't. I'm not the guy, but I do have an open mind, and I'll just listen to people, because, like I said, I've always believed, and I've been true to this word. I've been very consistent when it comes to, you know, anti-Semitic conspiracies. I've already always been very consistent when it comes to listening to people who are pushed to the fringes, which is people who have been told that they are racist and scum and all this. So, like, I listen to people and I do not judge, because you don't know where this stuff comes from. And in fact, the more I talked to this guy, the more I understood. So it's the Jews, and you know the usual thing. It's basically there's a war, and then it started getting into, you know, off about, like, this might have been during the second conversation I had with him, alright? So I met up with him 3 times, okay, with other people, never on my own. The second time is the most fascinating. But, you know, it goes into what they're doing, and, you know, there's this big plan, and it says it in the Bible. I'm like, what is this geezer's story? Because, but very quickly he revealed to me, and this whole time I'm just going, yeah, trying to change the subject, just get off the Jew talk. And I said to him, I basically said, look, I don't know about all this kind of business, because it's too early. I've only just met the guy. I'm not going to, go into, have you heard of the protocols of the elders of Zion? Do you know this? 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 Because I guarantee he doesn't. And with further investigation, he did not. So it doesn't matter. But I was like, I do believe that there's been a lot of social engineering going on over the years. That's all I said, as far as where I can stand on the grand conspiracy against all human beings. But he said some interesting things. So first of all, how he said he was a hardline Christian. And I mentioned to him about the comedy video I did on Britain First. Well, one of 3 or 4 that we did. And he was like, oh, Britain First, they're just a bunch of centrists. Yo, I mean, Britain First aren't as far right as like Combat 18 and shit like that. That is for sure. Britain First are a bunch of hardline Christians, essentially. Because they walk around with a cross in Luton going, Jesus, Jesus, yeah! They just rock up in a mosque and go, do you know Jesus? He's better than Muhammad, isn't he? Yeah! That's who Britain First are, essentially. They're not exactly dangerous. And I never agreed with them getting deplatformed, but then... that's another story for another time. Click subscribe, why haven't you done it yet? So I just found it interesting he called them centrists, though. Like, I've never heard anyone describe Britain First as centrists. So it's like, what, he's further right than Britain First? Like, shit. But he said he was a hardline Christian, which basically a lot of the BNP were hardline Christians. In fact, if you go back to when they were protesting, which is something I wrote about in an article about Charlie Hebdo, this is a part of that piece. You can go on my website, planetrebus.com, you can go read that article, can't you? When they were protesting the Jerry Springer the Opera and the outrage about portraying Jesus as a gay and wearing a nappy and all this stuff, a lot of the protesters were hardline Christians who were basically associated with the BNP. Hardline Christianity and the BNP are quite closely linked. So that's how he defined himself, as a hardline Christian. I was like, okay. And it turned out that he, like a few people I've known who I do no longer speak to because I believe they have been sucked into a cult, which is the cult of the church, and who was a drug addict. And basically, recovery, if you don't know, with alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling addiction too, is recovery is basically a recruiting ground. It's a recruitment drive for Christians. That's what it is. I don't know what they have in Islam or in Judaism or in Buddhism, but in Christianity, that is what they got. And I know a lot of people who have turned to God and turned fucking crazy after dealing with drugs. And I emphasize with him because I understood. And basically, he got off. I think he was using benzos, like Valleys and Diazzy, Xanax, this kind of shit. Fun stuff. It is fun, but my God, it's addictive. But he'd gotten off his addiction to drugs by being put in a rehab center that was run by hardline Christians, who basically didn't take the whole Russell Brand, let's hug a heroin addict. Oh, here you are, don't worry about stealing my TV, heroin addict. They don't take that approach. They take the hardline, like, fucking give yourself to Jesus or we'll beat you. I don't think there was beatings, but he said, they'd run in his room at 5 a.m. and bang a bell and say, right, you gotta get up and do this. Like, it was really hardcore, like a fucking Borstal, like boot camp. Really regimented, really tough love. And he appreciated it so much, and it had got him over his addiction. And in turn, you got to give your life to Jesus Christ, as many of these people do, and that's when people go a bit wacky. And so I knew the journey straight away. I was like, oh, I know exactly. I could write this guy's story because I've seen it happen, but I haven't seen people go over there. But then, my ex-girlfriend who went there, I hadn't spoken to her for like 10 years or something. Like, she might be some fucking nut job anti-Semite by now, thinking that the Rothschilds has infected her brain with MSG, 5G plus something. Who knows how fucking wacky she's got. But I knew the path he'd taken, because then he got pushed into a world of other hardline Christians. a lot of hardline Christians. Do you know what they don't like? They don't like the Jews. Why? Because the Jews killed Jesus. Well, that's why. So even though Christianity does stem from Judaism, they got the followers of Jesus Christ who got a problem with the Jews, haven't they? As we well know, just well known with the attitudes of Mel Gibson and certain other people. So I knew his story, and I was like, I kind of had a bit of empathy for him. It also turned out, because, and as I said, we should never push this stuff to the sidelines. We should never make it go underground. He was in some chat on a chat app, and I'm not going to name the chat app because I don't like soiling these apps, because the job to deplatform these platforms is by the mainstream media, because they're afraid of the power that they have for people to communicate. And I'm not going to take a channel away from people who have been pushed to the margins of society. We want to bring them back into the mainstream, not leave them over there. But he's ended up over there, and he was actually directly in contact with Nick Griffin, who had sent him, and I saw this. And at that point I was like, yo, this guy talks to Nick Griffin. That's when I knew I had to stay in contact with him, because it's like, there's just too much here. I've got an inside lane into what goes on. I never, like I said, those two experiences of meeting like people who are into white power and shit, but this is a guy who's, this is the people that you're supposed to be scared of, and you should not be scared of these people. And he's got a direct line in. He's talking to Nick Griffin. I was like, my God, this is, when you're a creative person, I do a lot of writing. I write articles, I write stories, I do all this, I do this, I was like, yo, I've got a connection that's directly plugged into that matrix. Because people always talk about this matrix, but they don't even know about it. They've never really explored it. You got douchebags out there like Hope Not Hate, who think they're well plugged into like the underground of fucking white supremacy and racism and blah blah blah. They don't know shit, because no one's going to talk to them. Even the people who've gained access to Britain First fucked it up. No more access. These are very small, tight-knit groups of people. Tiny minority. Not the big, bad fucking Al-Qaeda 3.0 that the media and the security services, like the CIA and MI6, like you to believe it is. Because don't forget, CIA and MI6 are as bigger lunatics as the alt-right and the far left. They're lunatics too. Let's not forget it. You see them black Israelites out on the street corners shouting anti-Semitic nonsense? They could join MI6. They go, you're just crazy enough to join us. Come on. And CIA would have recruited them already, going, yeah, well, they're pretty good people. So I was like, I have to stay in touch with this guy. So I connected with this guy, and we went out on a little boat ride, and I was talking to him, I always try to find common ground with people. I like to see, we need to build bridges with everybody. And I thought he had a decent set of moral values, because there are some very good values within Christianity, and about being good to women, about being a provider, about the sanctity of children. And I said to him, I found it interesting that I think as people have moved more away from God, they found different kind of idol worships, like even with musicians and stuff like that. I mean, that's another subject. So another subject we all get into. So click subscribe, and all these things. And I found it to be deep down a decent person. So I thought. So that was fine. So I was like, this guy is a bit out there, and I know the kind of brainwashing that's been put on him, because I know other people that's happened to. They just haven't gone, as far as I know, full blown, it's the Jews. But like I said, there's a lot of people out there who don't think they're racist, don't think they're anti-Semites, and go, the Rothschilds, have you heard of them? So I'm saying, Jeremy Corbyn, is he an anti-Semite? No, he doesn't know he is. The same way a lot of people on the far left and people on the far right don't know that they're Nazis. Do you see what I'm saying? There are people out there going, punch a Nazi. You should punch yourself in the face the way you're talking. That's who you need to be punching, is you. Anyway, So let's go into the second meeting. Well, before I go into the second time, there was something that he told me on the first meeting whilst we sat at that bar that was very interesting, which gave me an inkling that he was basically a separatist, a white nationalist, I suppose, which was confirmed in the second meeting. But he said that, you know, he's in his talking to his fellow Christian brothers in this chat group, and he was talking about a guy out here in Vietnam that he'd seen, who was in a bad way, probably, you know, I think a guy that was definitely experiencing alcoholism. And a colleague of his in the chat group has said to him, well, you know, is this an Englishman? He said, yeah. Is he a white man? And this guy said, and geezer face says, yeah. And he says, well, you know, well then you have to help him. It's your duty. We must look out for each other. Each other, meaning not necessarily Christians, but, you know, Anglo whites, I suppose, or English whites. Which was an indication there, and I was like, oh, okay. So on the second meeting, me and the mutual acquaintance turned out to this restaurant, a cafe. I wouldn't want to put the term restaurant on that place. It doesn't deserve it. It's all right. And as soon as I get there, he was on the phone and he goes, oh, I've just been chatting to Nick Griffin. And he said, you know, Nick Griffin's not a racist at all. That's all just media spin. I don't think Nick Griffin is a racist per se. He's definitely an anti-Semite though. I mean, that is confirmed by this guy. But anyway, and further conversation with him, it's like he cannot stop talking about this stuff, about the Jews and the plot, the Jewish plot. Oh my God. And I know a fair few people who are like conspiracy deep, and it can be fun, who like to talk about it a lot. Fascinating conversations about all this different stuff. It's entertaining. But you can always, as deep as they are, you can always steer them away and talk about other things. It became very apparent to me that, and also from speaking to my mutual friend, that it was almost impossible to get this guy to stop talking about this stuff. Like near enough impossible. He could not have a conversation without talking about the great conspiracy, the great Jewish conspiracy. And it was during that point that he was mentioning things about, you know, how he and the Muslims share the same beliefs, is that, you know, the Jews are the evil of the world. They also, and he shares the same beliefs that, you know, that he's not a racist, he just believes white people should be with white people and black people should be with black people, and, you know, Asians should be with Asians and blah, blah, blah. And that's the way it should be. You should procreate with your race. Bearing in mind at this time, is just the thing I haven't mentioned, is that he was shacked up with a Vietnamese girl that I know. Yeah, fucking hell. I assume he's using condoms. And, I guess he pulls out before he busts a nut, so he doesn't, you know, make Jesus ashamed of him or something. So contradictions, right there. Look at that, it's water. Changed man. Drinking tea and water on a stream, on a podcast. It doesn't make a difference. Tune into the stream too if you like more of that kind of talk. Too much plugging. Let's go. So, you know, that is an interesting concept, and this guy knows that I'm with a Thai girl as well. But you know, that shouldn't be a problem for him because he's with a Vietnamese girl. Well, later on, it turns out it is a problem, and that's where it gets really trippy. So after the second meeting, I'm like, okay, this guy's a white nationalist. And that's when I started telling my friend, and I was saying, yo, I said, this guy's in deep. And I started, because this guy didn't know, he's from a different country. He's like, he doesn't know nothing about Nick Griffin. And I was explaining to him, yo, you know who Nick Griffin is and the kind of circles this guy's roaming around with. He says Britain first is centrists. You know? That's like saying, it's the same as going, oh, the Socialist Workers' Party, well, they're borderline centre-right. Like, what, bruh? Anyway, this guy's saying, oh, really? It's like, what the fuck? I was like, yeah, be careful about exchanging information with him. But then I'd given him my Facebook Messenger. because he was talking about, he was saying, could I help him with making videos? And I was like, well, if there's money involved, I'll make some, anti-Semitic hate videos for a couple of quid. I joke. That will be clipped up at one point when I'm famous, so don't worry about it, who cares? But I was like, alright, yeah. I said, most people I give my details to never contact me, so fuck it, I can always block him. He didn't really send much to me until after the third meeting, which was when it got really fucking trippy. Oh, and also, bear in mind at this second meeting, I keep missing out these key details. He told me the story about how he bought a chainsaw in Vietnam. He said he was teaching out here, but then he's buying a chainsaw, and I didn't know. I was like, well, maybe he's like living somewhere where he's got to chop down some trees or something. And he was talking about how he was, how he worked out how to not get ripped off as being a foreigner with the story of buying a chainsaw. And as it later revealed, like, he bought that chainsaw because you can't buy a gun. So the closest thing to, like not buying swords and stuff, he bought a chainsaw, and he had, and whether he still has this chainsaw or not, I don't know. Whether he's still in the country or not, I don't know. He has a chainsaw because, my friends, there is a war coming, perpetuated by the Jews. And it was on the third meeting that he revealed that, yes, the Jewish conspiracy, it's very much similar to conspiracies that you'd get from like Farrakhan or like a lot of wacky individuals, that there is in fact, Charles Manson. Remember Charles Manson said there was going to be a race war between the whites and the blacks? You remember Charles Manson? Bit of a nutter. So this is what he believes. Not only is there a Jewish conspiracy behind COVID-19, Jewish conspiracy behind 9/11, and all the conspiracies that you can think of, there is a race war coming, and it's been between whites and blacks, and it's perpetuated by the Jewish overlords. So on the third meeting, he bought us a load of beers and took us to his house. And the reason I went down there because he got a real good deal on this sweet house. Like, we're talking like such a good deal in a quiet location. This 2-bedroom place, really nice in a quiet area, paying $7 million a month, which is, so £3.5 would be about £110, £210 for a 2-bedroom house. With, and the bedrooms are upstairs. I had to see this. And he was buying beers too. A whole crate of 24. And we get talking to him. And this was the first time I could actually sort of get him away from all the Jew talk, because it was becoming really uncomfortable. And he just couldn't stop. I was like, yeah, that's when I confirmed this guy cannot talk about anything else. Only when I started talking about furries, and then we had caught some jokes about furries, and we managed to go into a joke strain where it was like we were joking around about furries and stuff. I said, okay. And this guy can talk about something else. Until he revealed the race war and the stuff, and I was like, oh my shit. Then he went into flat earth. And of course he believes in flat earth, because that is, again, that's a Christian conspiracy, essentially, because of the flat earth being in the Bible. So flat earth, I was starting to realise, it's like, well, of course it's a Christian. I knew it was a Christian-based kind of conspiracy, but that's when it really confirmed to me. It was like, oh, and who are the ones who don't want us to think we are the people created in God's image? Of course, the Jews. So I'm like, all right, so flat earth's an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory too. Okay, that's going into the book. There is a book being written. Keep an eye out for that. Click subscribe to get a free copy of the book. Why am I'm plugging like a motherfucker? I've been doing too much reading. And then it just reached lunatic levels, and then I'd had enough of it, because because going into the protocols of the Elders of Zion and the brainwashing about Jews that's been going on for hundreds of years in certain circles when it comes to Ashkenazis and the Khazars and that whole conspiracy. And then you can go back like 1,000 years of the, there's so much anti-Semitism throughout the centuries. It's very hard to like get someone off that, but flat Earth, like I've done a video on it and I watch videos on it because I watched one video one night on flat Earth and I was like, yo, this is really convincing, but of course because I'm not a fucking physicist. So I had to watch some physics videos, like, to calm myself down. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. And I explained to him how, the whole flat earth theory is based on one crappy equation that everyone uses, which is wrong. He said, no, but I've seen this thing. And I was like, no, man. This thing where they pointed a laser down a stream. I said, yes, I've heard all about that. I said, in order for that to work, you have to be a millimeter off the ground. There's a video on it. Go look it up. But no, he was like, no, man. He was like, well, you believe in Pizzagate, don't you? I was like, well, it's to an extent. I said, as I've always said about Pizzagate, it's very difficult to tell people Pizzagate isn't real. And there's all these weird fucking emails going around in the Democratic Party, talking about fucking pizza and sausages, hot dogs and cream pie and God knows what. Send us 13,000 hot dogs. It's very difficult to tell people that isn't real. When the whole Epstein thing is still ongoing and everything surrounding that, it's like there's a secret cabal of paedophiles having sex with children. Obviously that's what paedophiles do. I don't know why I need to add that bit onto it. And we're told, oh no, there isn't. And then there's Jeffrey Epstein. You're going, oh, well, that's a bit, oh dear. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, this had gone on and on and on, and I was like, I tried to go into the Pizzagate thing, and then one thing I noticed was, even when we were trying to talk about Hollywood, and I was talking, I take an interest in Hollywood propaganda and all propaganda, and he started saying, and then we went on to just talk about films in general, and talk about like, I can't remember which Scorsese film it is, one with De Niro in it, so that narrows it down to 9. He's like, oh, Robert De Niro, and he's talking about Robert De Niro as an actor, but he's saying Robert De Niro, who is married to a black woman. And like he couldn't, like we're having a normal conversation about Robert De Niro, but he couldn't stop adding this stuff like, who's married to a black woman? Who works for this company, owned by the Jews? Neighbours with Woody Allen, who is a Jew? I don't know about that part. It was just like that. Couldn't talk about normal things without going into it. I said, this guy is so deep. And it turns out, this guy is getting basically bankrolled by his father, as far as I can see, to stay out of Vietnam because apparently it's safer for him. Because he's had trouble in the UK because of his beliefs, which I can imagine to be true, but who knows. So all this guy does is stay in secluded areas and watches conspiracy all the time and talks in these online groups. And this is the echo chamber. Now you see it. That's his echo chamber. Now we have these Twitter echo chambers. We have all kinds of echo chambers. We've got the echo chambers of the far left as well. But they're just all talking about the same, regurgitating the same conspiratorial nonsense over and over again. The patriarchy, the systems, the same conspiratorial nonsense over and over again. This is what these people are talking about. So after that meeting, I never physically saw him again. But he stayed in contact, constantly sending me these weird, they'd be memes about the New World Order, or some would be very spicy anti-Semitic. I remember one particular message talking about an attack on some white guy in maybe it was in South Africa, and he said, an attack on one white man is an attack on us all. And I was like, right, I said, that is kind of like, I know black people would say that too, but for me, like anyone who says that kind of thing, oh, one attack on one, like identity politics. Oh, an attack on a white man is an attack on all white men. No, it's not. An attack on a black man is an attack on all of us, all black men. No, it's not. It's not. Show me the evidence that they mean to attack all of you. Maybe they attacked this one person because he was an asshole. Or maybe they attacked this person because they were assholes. Maybe they're all assholes. Who fucking knows? But who is it for you to decide? But we get this all the time. People decide the motivations behind everything is related to some sort of identity politics. This guy is basically embodies identity politics. He cannot talk about anything unless it's through the frame. He is a white Christian. That's it. That is the only component of his personality now. He's so indoctrinated, that's all he can see is through that lens. And think about how many lenses there are out there. Think about if that was taught to your children at school. That you can only look at the world through these identifiable lenses, identity politics lenses. You are a white person, and therefore, this is how everything must look. Imagine if they did that at school. Oh, they are doing it at school. Right. Well, fuck that shit. In the end, this relationship ended because I had to. I mean, let's face it, like, I can't be getting all these. And it was almost every day at some point, and I'd never reply to it. I would, and this went on for months and months and months, but I was like, well, this is all insight for me into what's going on in the fringes. You know, I'm not going to go in undercover like fucking. I wouldn't know how to. Like, I'd be caught out. Same as I couldn't go undercover into the far left. Like, I get caught out. I go, yeah, but don't you think I wouldn't be able to keep my mouth shut for that long? You know, people who go deep cover, like these people must be crazy. The people that go deep undercover for like years. You know, in fucking the mafia or in terrorist organizations or God knows what it is. You know, activist groups get infiltrated. All these people get infiltrated. Like, how do you do it? Like, well, there's got to be at some point going, death to the West, death to the West. You're just like, shit. Look, come on, guys. Come on, can we chill out? So anyway. And I was like, if this shit is being monitored, and I'm pretty sure I have been monitored, there's a legitimate reason behind that, which I can go into. And another time, click subscribe. I'm so good at this. God, I'm good at this. Well, you're probably not clicking this subscribe. I'm going, no, you're not. Well, fuck you. So I was like, I need, at some point I need to nip this in the. This needs to be nipped in the bud. Now, the mutual friend got cut off at one point because he got into a conversation, basically because when I'd had this conversation with my friend before about how like the mixing of races or the mixing of ethnic groups. There was some study that he talked about. I haven't looked into this, and that produces people with higher IQs or something like that. So it's actually. You know, which kind of makes sense because, you know, like there's something about being incestuous when you stay within the gene pool and only within the gene pool that actually get lower IQs and more instances of health problems and so on and so forth has been documented, and we won't go into who, what, where and where, but you know, cousin kisses with 8 fingers on one hand. These motherfuckers. And this sent Geezer off. He went off. He said, it's a disgrace. You never, and immediately called him a race traitor. A race traitor. He said, you should never have children outside of your race. And blocked him. And that's when my friend finally came to the conclusion, this guy's a fucking racist. I was like, because at first I didn't think he was a racist, but he was dropping things that made me think he was a racist. I just thought he was because there are differences between separatists, white nationalists. You know, I would like Muhammad Ali believed the races should only consummate with each other. The same. So I'm not going to go around calling. You know anyone calling Muhammad Ali a fucking racist? Oh, you can't call him a racist because A plus B plus 12. Shut up. But I was like, that kind of confirmed it. But the audacity of the guy to say that when he's just going around. Because he was banging this Vietnamese chick that I know, and then he started banging someone else behind her back who was also Vietnamese and who he shacked up with again. Like, he's constantly banging Vietnamese chicks. And this guy says, don't have children outside of your race. And I told him that, like, very personal stuff, you know, on a level that, like, with my girlfriend, my Thai girlfriend, the reason I got into a relationship was to procreate, because after my father died, I had an epiphany. And that's what I wanted to do. And I told my father on his deathbed all this stuff. Via phone, and he was smashed out his face on cider and morphine. Like, he had a good send-off. That's true. So he already knew that my intentions were. And he sent me this message, and he finally spoke and said, a question like, why do you never reply? And I just said, truthfully, I was like, I ain't got nothing to say, mate. Just like that, I don't really have anything to say. And that's what, instantly, don't question the ideology. You're a coward. You're a fucking coward. You don't care about the race, you're a coward, not standing up to the Jewish fucking robot oppressors, whatever. And that sent me off. I had a few drinks. And I said to him, and I tried to get gangster on him, and I said, yo, I said, you're a bit too comfortable talking to me in that kind of manner, my friend. I said, you want to fucking calm down. And then he went off on one. No, you fucking traitor, you race traitor, like all this race traitoring disgrace. I've heard this kind of shit before, you disgrace of the white race, all this. And I'm like, right. And so I just started, I was like, do you know what? There's no point in being reasonable with this guy, or respectful, or messaging him, you know, trying to have some sort of civil discussion. I thought, I'm just going to shit talk this. Fuck it, I'm going to say what I like to this prick at this point. Fuck him. And I said he stinks. I said his grandmother stinks. I said his just the most petty shit you can think of. Your grandmother fucking stinks. I said, I said, Jesus hates you. Just trying to be a prick. I was just like, fuck it, I was in prick mode. Jesus hates you. Everyone hates you. You stinky piece of shit. And he started attacking me for being with a Thai girl, and for, like, you know, just selling out the white race because I'm going to have children with them. And then finally I dropped it, because there's kind of the thing that, like, we do have some Jewish ancestry, like, way back. I'm talking, like, you know, my great-grandfather, my great-great-grandfather. So, you know, me going around claiming Jew. But then Ross Barkley's black enough to get Kelvin McKenzie sacked, so I can be Jewish enough, I suppose. Fuck it. So, and I was saying, I'm a fucking Jew. That's what I said. I just went out. I said, I'm a Jew. I said, I'm fucking Jewish, you idiot. Just to see what his reaction would be. And it was beautiful. He said, you're a fucking Zionist. You're a fucking Zionist. Said, you're an idiot, you're a Zionist, and they won't even let you in your country. I was like, and then I got confused again. Hang on, what's my country? What are we talking about now? And he's like, hey. And then, and this guy, I should mention, is in his late 30s, and he starts going, you're a simp, a cuck. I was like, I said, don't use internet words you do not know. You've just seen that on some video of a 12-year-old. You don't even know what a fucking simp is, bro. Simp. Cuck. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I just laid into him, and that's eventually when I said, I'm going to have as many children, as many mixed race children as I possibly can, just to fucking piss you off. Fuck you. But not at one point did I call him a racist. Not at one point did I call him anti-Semite. Because that just gets used too much. Doesn't mean anything no more. So I said, he fucking stinks and Jesus hates him. I said, yeah. I wish I could remember all the stuff, but I've blocked it now, and he's blocked me, so I can't really look back through it. But it was a long exchange, and it was funny as hell. So the main point of this exercise is just to show you that this identity politics thing is right across the board, and if you can't hold up a mirror to these people, and them see themselves and go, look at the way you fucking behave. It's despicable, because their ideology says it's perfectly fine for them to behave this way. But if you can hold up a mirror that reflects them back as the thing that they despise, maybe that'll work a bit more. So with these far left lunatics who are teaching our children lunacy, who are, castrating kids and God knows what, if you can hold up this mirror to them and say, look at what identity politics and authoritarian beliefs does, because how familiar is that? As soon as I questioned this guy, as soon as I said, I got nothing to say, then you're a coward. It's very similar to the, if you say nothing, you are complicit in racism. If you have nothing to say, you are complicit with Nazis. If you do not say anything, you are part of the problem. It's exactly the same attitude. It's exactly the same. Because I was looking at and the way he got triggered as soon as I disagreed with anything that he had to say. He went off on one. I was a heretic. This is a hardline Christian. They go off on one. All these people share the same thing. They go off on one because they consider you to be a heretic. This is cult behavior. These are brainwashed cultists. All of them. When it comes to identity politics. All this stuff. Everything that's seen through a racial lens. I've seen if you look at it from all sides, because there's a lot of focus, because we get separated into these different echo chambers and stuff, and we don't get to see it from the other side. Because when you see it from the other side, and you go, shit, that is the same shit. And what about the anti-Semitism thing? Well, we all know that. We all know how that one goes. It's all the what we got going around. Fuck Israel. Now, admittedly, there are some issues with anti-Semitism because they did lower the bar on what anti-Semitism actually equates, and you can't criticize the state of Israel. But the Jews have kind of been good at that when it comes to being a protected group, and I think that can lead to part of the problem, which is something I said to the guy in the beginning. I said that the only thing I said to him was like, one of the issues with the Jews, and a lot of people say this, is that they have had a history of being booted out of countries, and that makes people always question why, because of the history. And to even say that you can get accused of anti-Semitism, but you can't expect regular people to not think, well, what's that all about? If you keep getting barred from somewhere, like usually it's because you've been up to something. But kind of Jews are like non-conformists, I suppose, and don't like to follow. They do their own thing, and that's wound people up. Jews became moneylenders because other people wouldn't. They also became moneylenders because the Christians forced them to. In fact, the Christian persecution of Jews has been equally as bad as the Islamic persecution of Jews. Hence why you get this anti-Semitism that's rife amongst the far right. Marxists are particularly anti-Semitic. A lot of Marxist ideology is incredibly anti-Semitic. Hence why they're all anti-Semites too. That's right, the hardline Christians and the hardline Marxists are all anti-Semites. All their ideas, go look into it, and you will unpack a stinking pile of Jew-hating fuckwit anti-Semitism. Like pieces of shit. These people, the identitarians, believe the same stuff as Adolf Hitler. They believe the same conspiracy theories as Adolf Hitler. They perpetuate what Adolf Hitler started. Nazis were defeated in the war, my friend, but the ideology was not defeated. The ideology infected places you didn't even know it had. So when you see these people walking around screaming about Nazis and also saying fuck Israel, these people are fucking wacko in their head. As wacko as this guy, the flat earthing conspiracy nutjob that thinks there's going to be a war between whites and blacks. If anyone's perpetuating a war between whites and blacks, it's the Marxists and these fucking hardline Christian lunatics. Okay? So don't even entertain it. Someone starts banging on about Israel, don't you bang on about Israel, because I guarantee you don't know enough to even have a conversation about it. Someone starts banging on about the Rothschilds, step away. Someone starts banging on about the patriarchy, the systemic racism. If you don't say anything, you're complicit. What am I complicit to? The destruction of the black man. What am I complicit to? The destruction of the white man. I ain't hearing none of it. I ain't hearing none of it. This is all lunaticville. Okay? That's all you need to know. There's plenty more to discuss on these sort of topics, so I'll just leave it there. Okay? Not as many jokes as I like to throw in, so let's throw in a couple of spicy jokes just to get really No, let's not do that. So, you know, what would I say about the current situation in the Middle East? Well, it's like we haven't seen that before. Like, but you know, if you hear anyone just talking about it, ask them what they really know. In fact, ask them the key questions going, just put the word Rothschild. In fact, this, you know, go change your social media avatar or photo to the Israeli flag and see what happens. See the difference between that and putting it as the Palestinian flag. In fact, put out any video that touches on the Holocaust, the Rothschilds, or, you know, or anti-Semitism, like going against it, saying this is bullshit, and just look at the like to the dislike ratio. It's always like 50-50, and the comments are always super spicy because a hell of a lot of people on all sides of the political spectrum are completely brainwashed. Now, how do you deprogram that? I don't know, but you got to stop kicking. I know they got to stop kicking these far-right hardliners to the fringes and allowing the hard left to infiltrate mainstream culture, because the universe needs to be balanced, and it is totally unbalanced right now. You know, but what am I going to do about it? Well, I'm just going to make jokes about it, innit? And hopefully, well, there have been people like doing vegan chalk activism, which is something I did a video on. They've actually been doing that in Da Nang, so that's actually something I've made jokes about. So I might be able to infiltrate one of those, and and see what I can learn from them. Well, that'll be fun. I'm not famous yet, so I can still infiltrate. Maybe I'll start wearing a mask. Oh yeah, you have to wear a mask, don't you? Okay, that's it. But anyway, like and subscribe, share, go to the website. Make yourself at home. Mi casa su casa. Stay sexy. I will, and I hope you do too.